You're his girlfriend? What the hell are you talking about? I'm the one who is his girlfriend. We have been dating for almost a week now. The girl screamed at me, which seriously only pissed me off more. For those of you who are thinking, what's going on here? Then let me tell you that I am having a conversation with the girl I saw kissing my man. And now she had the audacity to talk back to me saying she is the girlfriend. I'm Cecilia Walker, and I'm a 20-year-old college dropout. I have been dating my boyfriend Alex for over 6 months, and today I found out that he is cheating on me. I have loved him with all my heart, and he betrayed me just like this. Is love nothing in this world? This world and the people living in it both are cursed. If it were up to me, I would eradicate every single one of these people from the face of the earth. I regret ever loving Alex. I met Alex in college before dropping out. I was in the second year of B-Arch, and Alex was in the final year. Most of our lectures were combined, so he was mostly in the same class as me, but I never took notice of him at first. I was one of those shy girls who would only focus on her own existence, and nothing or no one intrigued me. I was only a spectator of others' relationships and never had been in one myself. That day, I was alone in the class eating my lunch when I noticed a boy sleeping in the back seat. I knew who he was. He was the most popular guy in college, Alex. He was popular for being clumsy and handsome, but despite being popular, I never thought of him as someone interesting. He rubbed his eyes with his hand while sleeping. It was because his hair was messy and poking his eyes a bit. So I just went there and brushed it off with my hand. That was when I realized how handsome his face looked. So, he really is handsome how people say. That's what I was thinking. And I was staring when he suddenly opened his eyes, which made me flustered, and I immediately went back to my seat. It looked like he was about to say something, but the class bell rang and students started to enter. The next day when I reached the class, I saw him sitting in the next seat with mine. I walked slowly there and sat in my seat. After that, I took out my notebook and I started to focus on the lecture. I could feel his gaze over me, but he wasn't saying anything, so I completely ignored it and kept looking in my notebook. Let's date. I turned my head toward him in an instant. He was looking at me. I thought I must be hearing things. There were no way he would ever ask me to date him. I know you're not seeing someone, so there's no point denying it. Besides, I saw you yesterday checking me out. My entire body turned red when he said that. I did not say a word and kept staring at my book with my mind blank. Next few days, he started to follow me everywhere I go, asking me to say yes. It was not like I did not want to date him, but he was infamous for being a serial dater. I kept rejecting him, but he was so persistent that he just wouldn't let it go. What is it about me that is making you not even consider dating me? I was going to the library, and as always, he was following me. As he asked me this question, I stopped in my track and turned my head towards him. What do you think? You have earned yourself the title of serial dater. I glared directly in his eyes, and he burst into laughter. You know that my friends are the ones spreading these rumors about me. You don't really believe it to be true, do you? I felt a bit guilty because I did believe it, and it was also true that I never saw him dating anyone, or maybe I never noticed because I wasn't interested before. Just say yes. Trust me, you won't regret it. He looked at me with his cute puppy eyes, which made me smile, and he brightened up. I'll take that as a yes. After saying that, he went ahead to the class. I couldn't believe I got into my first ever relationship. I started noticing his every move without even realizing. His smile, his clothes, his smell, what cologne he was wearing when it's not his natural scent. I could notice it all. He switched his seat permanently and started sitting by my side. One day I heard some girls talking over Alex being so handsome and all, and the same day I saw Alex talking with a big smile on his face with one of those girls. I felt so jealous that I wasn't able to control my anger. When he came to my side, I asked him, "What was that about?" I pointed my finger towards the girl. "Why? Is my baby being jealous already? He asked playfully in a response which made me even angrier. It was nothing, it's Agatha, she's just a friend. He sensed my anger and explained, but even that didn't subside my anger. The next day, Agatha did not come to class, and I did not care either. I was happy that Alex won't be able to talk to her anymore. But even after that, she completely stopped coming, so people assumed that she had dropped out. Almost 5 months passed, and it was finally the time when Alex was to get his graduation degree and was supposed to leave the college after that, which made me extremely sad. So I decided to drop out of college as well and stay with me. But when I asked him, and he got angry with me, saying I should focus on completing my graduation. Still, I persisted and finally dropped out. Alex wasn't happy about it. I think we should break up. Alex called me out to meet, and when I reached there, the first thing he said was this. Why? What's wrong? I was nervous. I could not understand why he was saying something like that. I never knew when I asked you out that you would drop from college, jeopardizing your own career for me. I really like you, Cecilia, but I don't want to be the reason of your demise. I still could not understand what he was talking about, why he was asking to leave me. I wasn't doing something wrong. I was in love with him. Besides, he was the one who kept bothering me to date him, and now he was doing this? But I did this so I could stay together with you. I would continue my college later. Just don't do this, Alex. I pleaded with him, but he did not say anything except that he will talk about this later, and left. I wanted to ask him to move in with me, but I couldn't. It was our first fight ever, and I wanted to make up with him as soon as possible. The next day I got ready and thought of surprising him in his apartment, but as I was about to reach, I was Alex talking to another girl near his apartment building. I had flowers in my hand, which I crumbled. As the girl left, I immediately stomped over them. Who was she? Is that why you were asking to leave me? He looked annoyed by my questions. Come on, Cecilia, don't make a scene here. She's just my neighbor, and you know why I asked for a breakup. He walked away after saying that. Everything was just putting fuel in my anger. The next day, I got a call from Alex. I was so happy, but my happiness faded away as soon as I answered it. Did you do something to Brittany? She's missing from yesterday. So he called me to ask for that bitch. I don't know, Alex. Why would I do something to her? I disconnected the call after saying that. I guess our fight was going to drag out a bit longer before we make up again. After a week or two, I saw Alex kissing a girl in his parking lot when I went there to apologize to him because it had gone way too long. Every time. Why? Why must he do this to me? I thought, feeling extreme anger and throbbing pain in my chest. But this time, I decided to confront the girl first and not Alex. When she was going back, I stopped her in the way. I asked her why she is kissing my boyfriend, and what she told me surprised me even more that Alex had started to date this girl too. I showed the girl pictures of me and Alex together, which I guess pissed her off too. She wanted to confront him, but I asked her not to. You know what? Let's forget about that cheater. He has done this to me so many times that I don't even want to see his dirty, cheap face. Let's go to my place and have a little drinking party. She declined at first, but I am a pretty convincing person, so I managed to take her with me. Wow, I never knew your place was in such a secluded area, she laughed when she reached. Yeah, I am pretty rich. I bought this place for me and Alex, but I guess he'll never be able to see it now, I said while unlocking the door. And as soon as we stepped inside, she started to look nervous. Why is it so dark in here? It looks like... I didn't let her finish her sentence and hit her on her head. She really thought she could get away by kissing my man. I dragged to the secret room in the basement and tied her in one of the poles. I sat there, waiting for her to wake up. After a while, when she woke up and looked around, I could tell by her face that she was horrified. Oh, them? The one tied to your right pole is Agatha, who tried to seduce Alex during college, so I made her this way. And the one tied on your left one is Brittany. She is here for almost a week now. Oh, don't worry, they are alive. Barely, but alive. I laughed out loud and went near her. Please, let me go. I swear I would break up with him and cut contacts with him. Just spare me, please. As soon as I ripped the tape off her mouth, she started blabbering. It wasn't something that I didn't hear from the other two. I simply took out the cutter and started to chop off her mouth from which she kissed Alex. The place was solid soundproofed, so her screams couldn't go outside from here. After I was finished with her, I texted Alex. Let's meet. I guess it's finally the time we break up properly. I was tired of his shit. I guess first love really is painful. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. I was set on a blind date by one of my friends. He also did not know the girl personally. Instead, she was known of his friend as well. My name is Zion Arthur. I am a 28-year-old chef in one of the finest hotels in Arizona. Due to my job and my hectic schedule, I'm never able to focus on my love life. When my friends asked me if I was up for a blind date, I agreed, because it's not like I'm getting any younger, so I had decided to date. He gave me her contact card and told me to inform her when I reached there. As I reached the restaurant, I met this young girl. She must be around 22 or 23 years old. Her name was Samantha. We had a nice conversation about each other's life. She was the one asking most of the questions, and I was simply answering and sometimes throwing a counter question to her. We ordered spaghetti and wine for the dinner, and everything was going smoothly. I liked her. She seemed nice. After that, we decided to be in touch with each other and decide the next date among ourselves. As I exited the restaurant, it had started to rain. It never rains in Arizona around this time of the month, so I did not have an umbrella with me. I tried to call a cab or taxi something, but they were all canceling due to heavy rain. So I decided to take the subway and walk in rain till then. As I was on my way, I noticed someone following me. I looked back and there was someone in a black hoodie. He was walking to a safe distance from me, so I thought it must be my imagination, and that person also must be stuck in the rain. But I could think it after noticing that he was getting closer to me and going to the same direction as me. So I decided to check it, and I took a different turn, but that person also did. I thought I should confront him, and as I turned, I suddenly got attacked from behind. That person had a knife, and it stabbed me in my palm as I tried to protect myself. I flipped the hoodie, and it was Samantha. Why? I asked with a confused expression on my face. Because you killed her. Don't you remember? It rained just like today that night, she said with a disgusted look on her face, which was obviously for me. But I could not understand how did she know about this. I was so sure that nobody had seen me kill Lily. I made sure that no one was there at the time. It was 5 years ago. I met Lily during the internship program. She was a gorgeous girl, and as soon as I saw her, I went crazy about her. I wanted her to be mine, but she was in love with this Marcus guy who was a newly appointed chef at the hotel. We were interns. I asked her multiple times to just forget him and date me instead, but she never agreed. So I came up with a plan. I thought if she just goes on just one day with me, I would show her how much I love her and she would become mine. I went her and gave her a challenge. Lily, just one day. And if you don't fall in love with me by then, trust me, you won't be getting bothered by me anymore. Lily was experimenting with a new dish. She always did that. She loved experimenting and coming up with new ideas. That was a plus point about her, and if I were to date her, I was sure she would be more than happy to share her recipes with me. She looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Do you promise that you won't bother me after this date?" she asked, and I convinced her that I won't. We decided to meet at a different restaurant for dinner, and I told her the time. I went there ahead of time and prepared flowers, music, and the most expensive wine for our date. I asked the owner of the restaurant to play the music on my signal. Everything was perfect, and I was waiting for her to come. She reached there at the time and we started to have dinner. I gave them the signal and bent on knees. Will you be my girlfriend, Lily? I had flowers in my hand and the perfect music was playing by the personal musician I had hired, but she laughed and said no. I felt humiliated. You told me just one date, Zion. Has it ended or is there something else? She asked me while laughing. I was feeling humiliated and raged, so I said there was another surprise for her in another place. I took her far away from the people near an abandoned factory. She started to look nervous, but I told her not to worry and there's a huge surprise coming up next. She looked scared and asked to go, but I knocked her on the head and she fainted. I took her inside the building and waited for her to wake up. As she woke, I started to rape her. As she was going to pass out from all the screaming and pain, I banged her head in the nearby fallen rock. I thought she would wake up from the pain, but she got unconscious. I continued raping her, and when I was finished, I tried to wake her, but I noticed that she had died. I took her phone and threw her body in a deep pit that was in the abandoned factory. I threw some huge rocks over her, so if anyone were to find her body, they would think that she died due to the injuries by rocks. I had already taken her back, and I checked it had a black diary inside. I remembered that she used to write her recipes in a black notebook which she used to take everywhere she went, so I took it with me. You still thinking how I found out that you killed her? That day she told me that she was going on a date with some guy, but she never said the name. She went missing after that, and I started searching for her. It was a nice move that you did not tell anybody that you were meeting her, because no one knew when I asked around. Her body was found after 2 years. I was still looking for her then, and when her body was found, her phone and her cookbook was missing. Since I'm her younger sister, I have tasted each one of her recipes, and luckily 2 months before this day, I went to the hotel you're working and tasted one of the signature dishes on the menu, which was the same recipe as my sister. When I investigated a bit deeper, I found out you were interning with her around that time, and you had a crush on her. My face started to turn pale as she told me. I could not think of anything else except that I needed to kill her now. I tried taking the knife from her hands, but she pinned me down. Not so fast. I did not take training for 3 years so that you can kill me so easily. I was struggling and feeling helpless. That was when I heard the sound of police sirens coming from a distance. I took a deep sigh and closed my eyes, waiting for my judgment of the crime I committed on that rainy night. Deep water. We were not meant to be together, being forced into a marriage that was not supposed to happen. I was waiting for one of the families from New York. I was an accountant, and I used to look at books of all the businesses that the Giovannis had. Now, if you don't know who the Giovanni is, let me tell you in a sentence. It is a family that you don't ever want to be associated with. My uncle moved from Italy to America, and in America, he found a friend in Roberto Giovanni, who just like my uncle, migrated from Italy to America. Giovanni's owned everything. The local shops, restaurants, politicians, the police. My uncle introduced me to Roberto Giovanni when I graduated from college. I wanted to work with the presidential candidates on his campaign. But then my uncle said, look, you can either work with the pricks, these politicians, or you can work for someone who puts them in his pocket and owns them. I wanted something better, so I went with my uncle and met Roberto. He was tall and built-up Italian. He patted my shoulders and with probably a Cuban cigar in his mouth said, "So this is the kind you've been talking about, Romano?" And my uncle replied, "Yes, Roberto. He's a good kid. Good with numbers. He knows stuff." And with his hands gesturing even more, "You know stuff, papers, laws, you know," Roberto replied. "All right, Romano. Take him to the business room. Explain to him what we do and what we want to do with our money. Then he gestured to me and came closer and said, "Also, hey kid, come over here." He took a bunch of $100 bills in his hand and said, "Buy a suit, alright? Romano will take you to the shop and buy something that stands out. If you gonna manage business and numbers, you gotta act the part." That was the first day that I started working for Roberto Giovanni. After a few months of working for Roberto Giovanni, I had information on how much of the business and what all the other businesses did Giovanni hold in the list of all the politicians and cops that he had in his pockets. I became the main man of the operation and kept all the numbers in every detail. We were more like a family than a workplace. Roberta had a wife and 2 daughters, Talia and Rufina. Rufina was supposedly the wild one, and the one who could hold a grudge. She once got one of her lovers beaten up real bad because she saw her talking with some other girl. Don't even ask me what happened to the girl. She was batshit crazy, and I stayed the hell away from her. Talia, on the other hand, was quiet, and probably was born in the wrong family. As years passed on, I had a strong hold on every information I had on the Giovannis, and now Roberto trusted me with everything. October 12th. It was a Monday morning, and it was raining as it has never. The streets were flooded with the overflowing sewers, and nothing but scum skimmed over those streets. I ran towards the house, and outside it was Roberto, drenched in rain, waiting for me as if his life depended on it. "Hurry, kid, I've been waiting for you. Where the hell have you been?" I replied, "The roads are blocked with scum water." And he held me by my shoulder and brought me closer. "Hey kid, you're a wonderful kid, alright? And you will help me do these papers so much better. Now I am saying this because I like you like my own son, and I want you to know that the next thing that comes out of your mouth will decide your future." I looked at him, confused and clueless, and then he said, "I'm going to marry you to my daughter. Now I really would have liked you to marry Talia, but it's Rufina who you gonna be with. Don't ask me why I'm doing it. Just remember, with one yes, you'll be taking over everything." He married Rufina because he was scared that she might actually end up screwing the whole family over. Now I was the family, so all the business was open to me, and I was taking care of everything while Rufina was being a reckless woman, spending everything, and making it impossible for all of us. Our marriage was good. We barely fought, probably because we didn't care enough about each other or the marriage. So the primary years of our marriage went on to understand each other, but there was none. Soon, the petty quarrels of the married life started, and Rufina always made sure who her father was. There was no way I could have won any arguments. She would always bring up her father and threaten me. I didn't care much about them because I knew Roberto wouldn't care. But one day, when me and Uncle Romano were out doing a business, Rufina went to her father and complained that I hit her, even though I didn't and I was out of town. I came back and Roberto called me in. "Hey kid, come in. How's everything? You feeling good? Rufina treating you good?" I chuckled and I said, "Yeah, she can be a handful sometimes." Roberto looked at me and said, "Now Rufina came to me and said you slapped her." I objected in between, and he injected and continued, "Wait. I know you didn't. You were out doing a job I sent you to. I know it. But the thing is, my daughter, she's got the habit of having everything, and now it's too late to correct it. I just want you to know, I don't have any hard feelings for you. I love you, and you're my son, alright? Stop calling me Mr. Giovanni, and call me Dad like Rafia does, okay?" Completely confused by this conversation, I started heading back to my home, and I was pretty tired from the trip. When suddenly, one of the goons of Roberto roughed me up. And now the conversation made sense. I went back home with a broken nose and saw Rufina smiling. I looked at her and said, "Glad my broken nose made you smile." I woke up angry. I was pissed about the whole incident, and the incident triggered something in me. There was this sudden desire for revenge that I had. I went to see Roberto the first morning. I went and he welcomed me and asked me while laughing, "What happened to your nose? You're an alright kid. I'm sorry. I got to make my daughter happy too. And also, I got you both tickets for Italy. You live in 3 days." And that was it. That was my limit. I was done being controlled by a scum of a family. So I decided to take my revenge on them. I had 3 days to arrange everything, and so I packed up all the papers and all the documents. It was all a strong evidence against the family, and I gathered them all and went to the feds. I knew which one to go to. Every cop and politician was under the payroll. I had them on my list. This was a very big catch for the feds, and I did not want any part of it. So I told the feds what I wanted to do. 3 days later, I and Rufina were on a boat in Sardinia, Italy. We were getting ready to head to the sea to watch the dolphins. As soon as we entered the deep waters, we could see the dolphins emerging, and I saw her eyes sparkling. For a minute, I looked at her, and there was this rare innocence in her. But I was definite about my goal. I took out my phone and called her father, and gave the phone to her. She refused, but then I said, "This could be the last time you talk to him." She snatched the phone from my hand, all confused, and turns out it was the last time that she talked to him, in the middle of the sea, in the deep waters. She found out that her dad was shot by the feds. They wanted to bring him in, but he wasn't ready to give up. She was devastated and came in close and hugged me. I stood there for a second, and then she asked me, "Who would do such a thing?" As she was crying and holding me, I stepped back and broke the hug. I looked at her and smiled. It was me. I made it possible. I almost kind of knew the old man would panic, but really, the feds? He thought he could outrun the feds. He was way over in his hand. Well, God rest his soul in hell. She was furious, and as she tried to charge on me, the 2 men in the boat held her. I hired the men to make sure that she doesn't act the way she is. She looked at me. "Why would you do it? You're a murderer." I looked back at her and I chuckled. I did not murder him. He was killed because of his actions. He was a piece of shit. Do you know how many people has he killed or got killed? Because I know. I have their names. So, good riddance. Now her tears were all settled. So she looked at me and asked, "Who helped you?" And I looked at her excitingly and said, "Wouldn't you like to know?" And then I told the men to tie her up, and they did exactly what I said. They tied her up, and she was sitting down on the corner of the boat. Soon, another boat came in, and we all boarded the other boat. She was still sitting in the corner with her hands tied, and the boat was empty. It was just her, in the middle of the sea, in the deep waters. Now, I could have just killed her, but I wanted her to suffer. The boat had a bottle of water and supply that would last her 2 days. Now I gave her a choice, to come back with me and live like normal people doing normal things. Or she can act like the tough gangster daughter she is and try to make out of the place on her own. She was stubborn, so she chose to stay back on the boat on her own. So in a way, I did not kill her. She probably did it herself. I came back a week later and took care of all the legit business Roberto had and married Talia. And for the next few years, enjoyed my life to its full extent. It has been 6 years since that incident, and today, I received a letter in my mailbox, a postcard from Sardinia that said, "Hey, husband,